Today we're going to learn a sutta from the Anguttara Nikaya of the Pali Canon. And this sutta is very much related to what a layperson should practice on the full moon day. So since tomorrow in Sri Lanka, tomorrow, March 24th, is the full moon day, I thought it would be a good idea to do this sutta in the sutta study as an encouragement for people to practice or develop the 8 precepts on the full moon day. Okay, so tomorrow is the Madin full moon day, and that is the day where our great teacher, the Supreme Buddha, started to go on tour to visit the Supreme Buddha's relatives in Kapilavatthu, the Shakyan clan. And surprisingly, the sutta that we are discussing is also in relation to the Shakyan clan. Okay, so the sutta we're going to be learning today is called the Sakya Sutta. Okay. And it's found in the Anguttara Nikaya in the Book of Tenths. Okay. So on one occasion, the Supreme Buddha was dwelling among the Sakyans at Kapilavatthu at the Banyan Tree Park. Okay. So this sutta occurred in the Supreme Buddha's hometown of Kapilavatthu. Okay. Let me share the link with you. Okay. So this sutta was taught by the Supreme Buddha in his hometown to his relatives. Okay. So then it was on a Uposatha day. So on a Uposatha day, a number of Sakyan lay followers came to the Supreme Buddha and worshipped the Supreme Buddha and sat down to one side. And at that time, the Supreme Buddha asked his relatives, the Shakyans who came to see the Supreme Buddha, this question, and that is, Sakyans, do you observe the Uposatha, the complete Uposatha, complete in 8 factors? Okay, what did the Supreme Buddha ask? Sakyans, do you observe the Uposatha, complete in 8 factors? So here what the Supreme Buddha is asking is, do you observe the 8 precepts? Okay. So now our great teacher, the Supreme Buddha, has taught that as a layperson, you should always protect the 5 precepts. Okay, so the 5 precepts are precepts that you should daily practice. However, on Uposatha day, so it could be the full moon day, the full moon Poya day, or there are quarters of moon phases. So there are, in 1 month, there are 4 quarters of moon phases. So the full moon, and then when 1 quarter is gone, and then when 1/2 is gone, and then the other quarter. So there are 4 moon phases, and the Supreme Buddha teaches that if a lay person can, that person should observe the 8 precepts on those full moon, on those moon quarters, or at least on the full moon Poya day. Okay. So the Supreme Buddha asks from these Sakyans, do you observe the Uposatha complete in factors on Poya days? Okay. And when this was asked, the the Supreme Buddha's relatives answered, Bhante, Venerable Sir, sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. Okay? So do they observe the 8 precepts on all the full moon days, or do they observe the Uposatha on all full moon days? No. Okay, sometimes they can and sometimes they can't. Okay, why? Because they are preoccupied with their household work, right? So people have many excuses. Even today, if we ask a lay follower of the Supreme Buddha who says he has gone for refuge in the Buddha and the Sangha, whether that person observes 8 precepts, forget about the 4 quarters, but even on full moon day, on the Poya day, they say that it's not possible to observe precepts because they have so much to do. So the full moon day has become their holiday. So therefore, they spend that day doing their family household work. Okay, however, the Supreme Buddha has advised for lay people, definitely on the full moon day, on the Poya day, you should observe the 8 precepts. Okay, so now let's remind ourselves what these 8 precepts are. Okay, the first one is abstaining from killing beings. The second one is abstaining from stealing. The third one is abstaining from incelibacy. Okay, and the fourth, so on normal days, you observe the precept of abstaining of sexual misconduct. But when you observe Uposatha, you observe the precept of abstaining from incelibacy. And the fourth is abstaining from lying. And the fifth is abstaining from taking intoxicating drinks and drugs. And the sixth is abstaining from eating at improper time. So that means afternoon, after 12 o'clock in the afternoon, you don't take any meal or any solid foods. So you only have properly strained juices or tea or coffee without milk. Okay, or you can have jaggery, things like that. But you don't have complete meals or any solid food after 12 o'clock. So on that day, you pretty much try to control your tongue. Okay, so you have to be very mindful to control your tongue, because if you are not mindful, then you will forget that you're observing the precepts and you will go to the kitchen and you'll get something and bite on it. So you really have to be very mindful about your precepts. That's the sixth precept. And the seventh precept is abstaining from um, dancing, singing, and watching dramas, movies, things like that on TV, and then abstaining from decorating yourself, wearing makeup and wearing fancy dresses and trying to make yourself look good. Okay, so on that day, you see pretty much wear a very simple cloth, okay, a simple dress, and you don't, you do hairstyles, or you don't wear jewelry to make yourself look pretty. You don't use makeup. You don't use things like that. You're just very plain, simple person that day. And so you try to control your senses on the course of the day by observing that precept. So on all other days, you can do all of those things. You can sing, you can dance, you can watch TV, you can watch movies, you can play, you can do whatever you want. You can dress and put hairstyles or do whatever you want on all other days, but on the course of the day, you're well controlled. Okay? And the eighth precept is not you abstaining from using luxurious beds and chairs. So the idea here, the Supreme Buddha what is trying to teach us is to try to control, going after comfortable sensations. Okay, so don't use very luxurious beds and don't use very luxurious chairs. So on the course of the day, you can most of the time people would sit on the floor just using a small cushion or a mat. And then you can also sleep on a very simple bed, or you can sleep on the floor by using a small mattress. Okay, so instead of using luxurious beds, you can use a very simple bedding in order to sleep on that day. So through those things, what our great teacher Supreme Buddha is trying to teach us is to control our desire for sensual pleasures. Okay, and that belongs to 𝐾𝐚𝐭𝐞𝐫. Okay, so that is trying to separate yourself, free yourself from sensual pleasures. So if a person, and on the opposite day, what you're doing is you're imitating arahants. Arahants for their entire life did these things. Okay, so as a lay person, on the opposite day, you imitate arahants and you honor their virtue and you try to practice it yourself, and that helps you to develop your Dhamma path. Okay? So those are the 8 precepts. So the Supreme Buddha advises that a lay person, at least on the Poya day, observe these 8 precepts into his life. Okay. So when the Shakyans said that they don't observe, sometimes they observe and sometimes that they don't, let's see how our great teacher Supreme Buddha replied. Now, before we go on, let me ask you, how many of you observe the 8 precepts on Poya days? If you observe the 8 precepts, you can use the hand gestures to raise your hand up. Nobody. One person. Okay. Okay, so it's the same as here. Okay, so a few people observe the 8 precepts. Okay. So it's the same situation here. So at least they observe the 8 precepts sometimes. Okay. So when they reply that they observe the 8 precepts sometimes, so not all the time, sometimes, this is what a Buddha, this was the reply from a Buddha. So you can really relate this to your life. At that time, the Supreme Buddha said, "O Shakyans, it's your misfortune and loss." So if a person observes the 8 precepts only sometimes, then how did a Buddha reply to that? The Supreme Buddha said, "Oh Shakyans, you are at a loss. You're losing out so much. It's your misfortune. If you're not observing 8 precepts on all the course of the day, you're missing out so much." The Supreme Buddha teaches, when life is endangered by sorrow and death, when life is endangered by sorrow and death, you observe the opposite there complete in 8 factors sometimes, and sometimes you don't. So that is such a loss for you. Why? The Supreme Buddha teaches this life is endangered by sorrow and death. Okay? So we don't know when we will die. Right? Now, most people procrastinate. If they can't observe the 8 precepts this Poya day, then they think, okay, I'll do it next time. And then next Poya day again, the same thing. I'll do it next time. So always procrastinating. Why? Because we think we're always going to live. Okay? We have that defilement within our mind of being intoxicated with life. Okay, because of that intoxication with life means not always thinking that you're always you're going to live for a long time. You don't think of the fact that you can die at any moment. But that is far from reality, right? The Supreme Buddha teaches you can die in the time that you take a breath in, and the time it takes to exhale. Okay, the time it takes between an inhalation and exhalation, you can die. You can die that quickly. But we don't think this reality. We always think because of that intoxication with life, we always think we have a long time to live. It's because of that we always postpone and procrastinate. Okay, but the Supreme Buddha teaches this life is very short. This life is like a droplet of water at the edge of a blade of grass. Okay? If you have seen water droplets on grass, the moment sun rises, what happens to those water droplets? It disappears very quickly. Right? So life is very short like that. And the Sariputta teaches this life is like this. This life is like a cow being taken to the slaughterhouse. So every step that cow takes forward, he gets closer to death. Right? Our life is also like that. Every second, every moment we spend, we are getting closer to death, and we don't know when, where that is. It could be today. It could be the next moment. Right? So it's because we don't think this reality that we procrastinate. That's why we don't that's why we don't take advantage of the opportunity that we have gotten. We think we'll do it next time, we'll do it next time. We always postpone. But if a person realizes that life is short, that you're not going to live forever, then that person starts to be diligent in life. Okay? So this is what the teachers, Shakya, it's such a loss for you. And the Supreme Buddha teaches, Supreme Buddha teaches, the Supreme Buddha teaches what that loss is, what that misfortune is. And that is, the Supreme Buddha teaches, so Shakyans, suppose a man here would work for one day and he would get half a, let's say, golden coin, half a golden coin. Okay. So during the Supreme Buddha's time, a golden coin was worth a lot of money. Okay. So if he works one day and if he gets half a golden coin, then what do you think? Would that suffice for calling him a clever and enterprising man? So that means that's a good earning for him. He's a very clever person who's earning quickly. So the Sakyan says, yes, Bante. He is a very clever and enterprising man. Then the Supreme Buddha increases the salary. Okay. How about if he gets a full gold coin? How is that? And then the Sakyan says, Venerable Sir, that's a very good salary for a day. He's a very good person who's earning a lot. Okay. Then the Supreme Buddha teaches, how about if he gets 3 gold coins, 4 gold coins, 5 golden coins, and in this way the Supreme Buddha increases up to 1,000 golden coins. This is called 𝐾𝐽. Okay, so that is the currency that was used during the Buddha's time. Okay, so if a person gets 1,000 gold coins a day, okay, and if he earns 1,000 gold coins a day, and if he earns for 100 years, would he acquire a great mass of wealth? So if a person works for 100 years and each day if he gets 100, if each day he gets 1,000 gold coins, then how much of a wealth would he have earned in 100 years? Right? He would be a billionaire. Right? And then the Supreme Buddha asks, Sakyans, what do you think? On account of his wealth, if he's a billionaire, so that means he have a lot of houses, he have mansions, he have a lot of properties, he has many vehicles, right? He can enjoy anything that he wants. He can go anywhere he wants. He can eat whatever he wants. He has everything for himself, right? So Supreme Buddha asks, such a person has that much wealth, then what do you think? On account of his wealth, because of his wealth, could that man experience exclusive happiness for one night or one day? Or one night or half a night or half a day? What did Supreme Buddha ask? Because of his wealth, on account of his wealth, could he experience exclusive happiness for one night or one day? Could he? Now here, exclusive happiness means only happiness. Only happiness with no suffering, with no sorrow. Okay? And when this was asked, so pretty much what the Buddha is asking is, because of his, if he is that wealthy, if he has that much property, okay, then can he spend one day and night by being happy only without having any, without having, without only having happiness, exclusive happiness. Okay. And at that time, those relatives, the Shakyans reply, Venerable Sir, no, he cannot have exclusive happiness just because of his wealth. And the Supreme Buddha asks, why not? And they reply, because Venerable Sir, sensual pleasures are impermanent. Same sensual pleasures are impermanent. So sometimes you have money, sometimes you don't. People lose their wealth. It's not going to lead to exclusive happiness. Okay? And these Shakyans reply, Venerable Sir, these sensual pleasures are false. They are deceptive. Okay? So although we think that sensual pleasures can get us everything, okay, can give us true happiness, okay, because of sensual pleasures, people suffer so much, right? Pretty much now, if you think you do a job because you want to enjoy sensual pleasures, you want happiness, but to do that job, see how much you have to go through, right? You have to go through so much suffering. And we get married and we have children because we want sensual pleasures. We want to enjoy sensual pleasures. But because of them, see how much you suffer, right? And even if people have a lot of money, even if the person is a billionaire, it's not possible for him to always be happy just because he has money, right? He gets into fights. He sees people he does not like, right? He hears things that he doesn't want to, right? So through those things, he get insulted, right? So through things like that, that person's or his family life is not successful, right? So through those things, that person has to go through suffering. That's what the Supreme Buddha teaches. These sensual pleasures are like a dream. It's a similar to Supreme Buddha teaches. Now, what's the nature of a dream? What's the nature of a dream? So if you have a good dream at night, you wake up, and when you remember that, when you remember back, you feel happy. Okay, but you were only happy. You were very happy during the dream, but once you wake up, is that dream there? No, right? The dream is not there anymore. Okay? So the Supreme Buddha teaches these sensual pleasures are like a dream. Okay, so now if you look back, you can look back to your past, how much how much you enjoy sensual pleasures, but where is all that now, right? Isn't it like a dream? It's like a dream. There's nothing substantial in it. Okay, this is remember the teacher, these sensual pleasures are like are like The essential pleasures are like a skeleton, like a bone where all the flesh has been scraped off. Okay, now suppose a butcher in a butcher's shop, he takes out all the meat that's in the bone and he throws it away. Okay, and since there's smeared blood in it, when a dog gets it, what does he do? He licks it and licks it and licks it, thinking there's meat in it. But what only happens at the end is his tongue is damaged and he becomes frustrated. Right? So remember the teachers, these sensual pleasures are also like that. Although uh, you try to enjoy sensual pleasures, at the end you're only left with exhaustion and frustration. So if a person can understand this, then that person realizes the futility of sensual pleasures. And so remember the teachers, these sensual pleasures are like a hawk that has grabbed a meat and flying away. When a hawk has taken some meat in his mouth, and when he's flying away, what happens is other hawks surround him and try to bite him so that they can take the meat away. Just remember the teacher, these sensual pleasures are also like that. As long as you're going after sensual pleasures, you have many enemies around you. And there are thieves, robbers waiting to take your wealth. So you have to protect them. So you're always concerned about your safety, about your protection, right? Or if you're married, if you have a husband or a wife, you're always thinking you have to protect that person from uh, associating with others. You always have that sense of I have to protect. But the moment you let go, if that hawk wants to be happy, what does he have to do? He has to let go of that piece of meat. Then those hawks are not going to bite him anymore. So the moment you let go of so sensual pleasures, your life becomes so much more happier and calmer. Okay, in this way, the Supreme Buddha teaches many similes to show how dangerous and how futile sensual pleasures are. So if a person can understand this, then that person can develop the Dhamma path so that he can be free from this. And another simile the Supreme Buddha uses is, the Supreme Buddha teaches these sensual pleasures are like carrying a blazing grass torch against the wind. So if you carry a blazing grass torch against the wind, what happens? The fire comes towards you and burns you. So if you want to be free, what should you do? You should throw away that grass torch. So in the same way, just remember the teachers, as long as you put up with sensual pleasures, you're always burning inside. If you want to get rid of that burning desires, those burning feelings of hatred, what you have to do is you need to let go of sensual pleasures. Okay. So that's why the Shakyans replied, Venerable Sir, although a person has so much money, that does not necessarily mean that he can truly be happy forever. He cannot have exclusive happiness. Okay? And at that time, our great teacher, the Supreme Buddha teaches, Sakyans, my disciple who dwells heedful, ardent, and resolute for 10 years, practicing as I instruct him, can experience exclusive happiness for 100 years, for 10,000 years, 100,000 years, and 10 million years. And he might be a once returner, a non-returner, or surely a stream mentor. So if a person follows the Supreme Buddha's advice, if a person practices the precepts, the 8 precepts at least on the full moon day, then that itself, just observing the precepts itself can give that person exclusive happiness. Why? Because the Supreme Buddha teaches observing the 8 precepts helps you to be reborn in the heavenly world. Okay? There are heavenly worlds that only have happiness in it. There's one heavenly world the Srimata describes about, and the Srimata teaches. In that heavenly world, whatever you see is always something pleasant. Whatever you hear is always something pleasant. Whatever you smell, whatever you taste, whatever you feel is always pleasant. So for many, many years, that person can experience only happiness. The Supreme teaches, if a person, if my disciple dwells heedful, ardent, and resolute for 10 years, practicing as I instruct, that person can gain that much happiness. And then the Supreme Buddha lowers the time, okay, from 10, let alone 10 years. If a person practices this Dhamma for 8 years, 7 years, 6 years, 5 years, 4 years, and in this way, the Supreme Buddha lowers up to 1 day. If a person at least practices the Dhamma, heedful, ardent, and resolute for just 1 day. So that means if a person can at least follow the Supreme Buddha's instruction to practice Uposatha Sila on full moon day, then that itself can gain him exclusive happiness, not just for 1 day or 2 days, but for many years, for thousands of years, for millions of years. Because when you are reborn in the heavenly world, you know, they have long lifespans. They have long lifespans where you can live for a long time happily. Okay, so it can gain you so much happiness. So one of the things that every being in this world wants is comfort and happiness, right? So we do all of these things because we want happiness. You go to school, you get a good job, you get married, you have children because you want happiness. Okay, but really the real way to get happiness is by collecting merit into your life, and many people forget this. Okay, so now imagine if you look back, how many days of Uposatha have you missed? Right? How many days of Uposatha have you missed? So what you have missed out, what you have lost is happiness. You have lost out on getting happiness. That's why the Supreme Buddha said, it's such a loss for you. It's such a loss for you. You're very unfortunate. So at least, and not only that, the Supreme Buddha teaches, if a person practices my instructions, develops the Dhamma path the way I have taught, in this way, the Supreme Buddha teaches that person can become even a Anagami disciple or a Sakadagami disciple, or for sure he can become a stream entrant. So the teaches like that. So of course, if you can gain fruits and parts of the dispensation, then definitely you can experience the true bliss of happiness, which is Nibbana. Right? Because remember the teaches this practicing virtue is pretty much like a foundation to developing all other good qualities. That is why we have to first lay the foundation. As a layperson, you first practice the 5 precepts, and then you have to develop your virtue by developing or practicing these 8 precepts on full moon days. Okay, and if you're devoted, if you're ardent, if you do not procrastinate, and if you don't miss out on Uposatha day, you always plan ahead, and you always make sure you free your day for Uposatha, then you can develop your virtue, and you can collect a lot of merit, which will give you happiness for a long time. Okay, so Many divine beings in the Heavenly Mansions book, if you read, many heavenly beings say one of the merits that they collected in their previous lives as a lay person or a lay woman, especially, is observing the 8 precepts on the 4 quarters of the moon phases. So, and observing those 8 precepts allow them to be reborn in the heavenly world. So it's a very strong, powerful merit a person can gain into his life in this rare human life that he has gotten. Okay, so when our great teacher, the Supreme Buddha, explained about the importance of developing opposite the sila in a person's life, the Shakyans, they replied, from today on, Bante, we will observe the Uposatha complete in 8 factors. So they realized the importance of observing the 8 precepts. So up until then, they did not realize the value of observing Uposatha. But when the Supreme Buddha taught them the value, they realized what they're missing out on. They realized what they're losing out on. And at that moment, they determined, okay, from today onwards, we will definitely not miss a single day. We will always make sure we observe the 8 precepts from now on. Okay, so that is the reason that I thought we should discuss this sutta, because if a person hears this sutta and then if that person makes a determination to at least observe the 8 precepts at least on the full moon day, then that would be beneficial for him for a long time. Okay. So may this beautiful sutta help you all to develop your virtue, observe the 8 precepts on full moon days, and develop your Dhamma path and realize the 4 Noble Truths and escape from all suffering in this 𝐿autama Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.